My aunt promised me a job in her company, then gave it to her son and told me I wasn't ambitious enough, so I stayed quiet. Until I bought her company's biggest client. When I graduated from college, I wasn't naive enough to expect the world to hand me anything. I knew I'd have to work for it. I'd taken internships, done side gigs, networked, showed up to those awkward coffee chats where someone 20 years older pretends to remember what it was like to be entry level. I didn't mind the grind. What I minded was the lie. My aunt, Laura, ran a mid-sized marketing firm that catered to a few big-name retail and lifestyle brands. She always told me growing up, when you're ready, there's a place for you here. I believed her. Maybe because she was the only adult in my family who didn't roll their eyes when I talked about working in creative strategy. Or maybe because I wanted to believe that someone in our family actually saw me as more than a backup plan. So after graduation, I reached out. We had lunch. I wore a button-up shirt that didn't quite fit and tried not to sweat through it while explaining the senior thesis I'd done on brand loyalty in Gen Z. She nodded, smiled, said I sounded sharper than half her staff, and that she'd talked to HR. That was in May. By July, I still hadn't heard back. I followed up once, got a vague, "Things are shifting internally. I'll keep you in the loop." I didn't want to be pushy. I assumed she was busy. In August, my mom forwarded me a Facebook post, a photo of Laura's son, Evan, standing in front of their company's logo holding a mug that said "Boss Baby." The caption read, "Proud of my boy starting strong as junior campaign strategist at LRM." I stared at it for a long time, not because I was surprised, but because I felt stupid for not seeing it coming. Evan had flunked out of his first year of college, floated around, and finally finished a business admin program at some for-profit school with international in the name. He once told me, TikTok was for broke people, which I guess tells you all you need to know about his marketing instincts. I called Laura that night. She picked up on the second ring like she was expecting me. "Hey, Connor," she said. "I was meaning to call you. Is there a reason you didn't?" I asked. There was a pause. "Look," she said, "you're incredibly smart, but you don't have the fire Evan has. He came in with ideas. Energy. He's hungry. You're more thoughtful, careful, which is great, just not what we need right now." I sat there on my twin mattress, in my shared apartment where the heat never worked, and listened to a woman who once told me she believed in me now explain that I was basically too calm to be worth hiring. She ended the call with, "Keep at it. You'll find your thing." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even throw my phone, even though I wanted to. I just stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Yeah, I'll find my thing." And then I started building. I picked up freelance gigs anywhere I could, small business rebrands, Instagram audits, email campaign rewrites. I said yes to everything. Designed logos for tech startups that didn't have real products yet. Helped a local bakery go viral with a dumb meme campaign that got them interviewed on a food podcast. I built a portfolio so dense it looked like I had 3 years of experience by the time I was 24. Then I got lucky. Or maybe I was just ready when the chance came. One of the bakery owners I'd worked with introduced me to a woman named Teresa who was launching a sustainable skincare brand. She hated every agency she talked to, said they were all talk, no texture. I asked her for 10 minutes. She gave me 5. I sent her a pitch deck that night. 2 weeks later, I was her brand consultant. Her product blew up on social. TikTok liked her story, single mom, eco-conscious, handcrafted formulas. I helped her scale, launch DDC, and by the end of year 1, she'd landed a limited deal with Sephora. We didn't just get big, we got visible. And that's when things came full circle. Because guess who Laura's company was courting at the time? That's right, Teresa. I didn't tell her the whole story, just enough to make her raise her eyebrows. She said, "So they ghosted you and hired Nepo Baby?" I shrugged. "I'm not salty. Just thought you should know." She grinned. "Then I guess I'll wait to hear your pitch first." And I gave her the pitch of my life. The meeting with Teresa was at a midtown cafe with 2 mini Edison bulbs and chairs that looked better than they felt. She brought her business partner, Jules, who had a quiet intensity and a habit of scribbling notes without breaking eye contact. I'd prepped for this like it was a TED Talk, maybe even over-prepped. I wasn't just pitching a strategy. I was pitching proof that Laura had picked the wrong horse. "So," Teresa said, flipping open her laptop, "show us how you'd take Bloomskin from niche to national." I inhaled. "Okay, right now, you've got a loyal following, but you're boxed into the clean girl aesthetic. Gen Z, Instagram, wellness influencers. It's working, but it's fragile. You're one shift away from being the next trend that dies in a week. Jules scribbled something. You don't want to be a trend, I continued. You want to be a lifestyle staple. Think Burt's Bees, but for 2025. That means crossing over. Moms, dads, gym bros, teachers, everybody. We can keep your identity, but we broaden the story. Pivot toward function. Real testimonials. Create a campaign around real skin and real people, not influencers. No filters. No perfect lighting. Just honesty. Teresa leaned back, her fingers steepled. You think that'll land? I think the fact that your competition looks like a glossier clone factory means people are craving something real. You built this brand from your kitchen. You've got the story. I've got the strategy. She didn't say anything for a second, just nodded slowly. Then she looked at Jules, who gave a barely perceptible nod back. All right, she said. We're in. I walked out of that cafe lightheaded, not just from the win, but from what it meant, because I knew exactly how this would ripple. A month later, the announcement went live. Bloomskin was officially dropping LRM, Laura's firm, and moving to a new, boutique consulting team. They didn't name me in the press release, but people in the industry talk. 2 days later, I got an email. Subject, Connor. Really? It was from Laura. Short and to the point. Would have appreciated a heads up before you poached a client we spent 6 months courting. We're not a charity. Grow up. I didn't reply, mostly because I was too busy doing actual work. But part of me smiled. Because there it was, confirmation. She knew, and she didn't like it. What she didn't know yet was how deep it went. See, Teresa wasn't just planning a rebrand. She was expanding. She wanted a full marketing and content team in-house, and she trusted me to build it. So I started hiring strategists, copywriters, designers, people who were hungry, humble, and collaborative. We didn't have beanbags or kombucha on tap, but we had range. We knew how to work. And a funny thing happened. Word got out. Turns out, not everyone at LRM was thrilled with the leadership. Evan had gotten promoted fast, too fast. He reportedly referred to TikTok as that Gen Z dumpster fire during a pitch meeting, which made his skincare brand quietly back out. People started leaving. A few even sent me their resumes. I didn't hire them out of spite. I hired them because they were good. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel satisfying. I watched from afar as LRM started to wobble. Laura still had some legacy clients, but the industry's changed. Agencies have to move fast now. You can't survive off name alone. And when Evan bombed a brand refresh for a major pet supply chain, the whispers got louder. Then came the call. A number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. It was Laura. Hey, Connor, she said, her voice tight. Do you have a second? I paused. Sure. I'll just say it. I misspoke. I was unfair to you back then. And I guess I underestimated you. That's one way to put it, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. You've done well. Bloomskin's campaign was smart. Very you. I had help. Great team. A beat of silence. So listen, she said, we're actually looking to collaborate on a new product line coming down the pipe. I thought maybe we could. I didn't let her finish. You gave me a shot when I was a kid, I said. But when it mattered, you picked family over fit. That's fine. But you don't get to rewrite that now. I'm trying to make peace, she said sharply. I already have it, I replied. Good luck with everything, Laura. And I hung up. I sat there staring at my phone for a minute. Then I opened my calendar, made a note to follow up with Teresa about the Q3 content rollout, and got back to work. About a month after that call with Laura, I got a notification that Bloomskin was being nominated for a major innovation award in brand development. It wasn't technically my name on the ballot. It was Teresa's company, but I was listed as creative lead, and that was enough to draw attention. One of the panels was going to be streamed live from LA with founders and campaign leads from nominated brands. Teresa asked if I'd fly out to represent the strategy side. I didn't hesitate. What I didn't expect was to see LRM on the attendee list. Their name was listed under a different category, Legacy Branding Excellence. Basically, the industry's way of throwing a bone to firms that had been around long enough to deserve polite applause, even if they weren't making waves anymore. I'll admit, I stared at the name for a while. I wasn't nervous, just interested, curious, maybe, about how they'd show up, or if Evan would be there. Spoiler, he was. I ran into him in the green room the day before the event. He was wearing a sharp suit, trying a little too hard to look casual, leaning against the wall like he was the reason branding existed. At first, he didn't recognize me. That stung a little. I wasn't expecting him to hug me or anything, but I thought he'd at least register. But then he froze mid-sentence, his eyes flicking to my name tag. "No way," he said, grinning like he thought we were still cool. "Connor? Dude, didn't know you were here." "Hey, Evan," I said. He glanced at my badge again. Creative lead for Bloomskin. Wow, small world. I didn't reply. "So what, you freelance now? Or, wait, are you running a boutique or something?" I kept my expression even. "Yeah, something like that." Evan chuckled, clearly uncomfortable, but trying to save face. "Well, hey, congrats, man. Glad you're doing something with yourself. We should catch up later." "Sure," I said. "I'll be at the finalist table." That shut him up for a second. I walked away before he could respond. The panel went well. I talked about honest branding, about rebuilding trust in a market saturated with shallow promises. It wasn't some rehearsed script. I just spoke from the trenches. People clapped. A few came up afterward to exchange cards. Evan didn't say anything else to me, but I saw him from across the room later, talking to someone with that same nervous charm he always used when he was trying to sound like he knew what he was doing. A week later, the Bloomskin campaign won. We didn't just get the award. We got 2 new offers from venture firms, plus a shout-out in Adweek that said something like a masterclass in turning values into value. I printed that line and pinned it next to my desk. It wasn't even about the clout. It was about that line. It was proof that the way I worked, the quiet, careful, deliberate way, wasn't weakness. It was power. I forgot about Evan for a while after that. Things moved fast. Bloomskin grew. We onboarded 2 new clients. I hired 3 more people and even moved into a bigger office that didn't smell like dust and takeout. Then, a few months later, I got another email. Subject: Internal Referral, LRM. I opened it. It was from one of my newer hires, Allie, a junior strategist we'd poached from a PR firm. She'd forwarded me a resume that had just come into her inbox with the subject line, "Evan Martinez, Brand Strategist Application." I stared at it for a full minute. He'd applied. To my firm. He didn't know, obviously. My company name wasn't my own. It was something clean and vague, built to sound modern and neutral. My own name didn't appear on the website, either, because I preferred the focus to be on the team. But he'd applied. His resume was fine. Too many buzzwords. Synergistic impact through narrative disruption, kind of nonsense. A decent list of past clients, most of which I knew he hadn't led. But technically, he fit the job description. I called Allie. "Hey," I said, "thanks for forwarding that. Let's bring him in for an interview." She paused. "Really? He kind of sounds, sorry, just being honest, like a little full of himself." I smiled. "Exactly. I want to meet him." 2 weeks later, he walked into our office. Still polished, still confident, but with this barely hidden desperation in his eyes. You can always tell when someone's used to being the golden child and suddenly finds out the world's full of people who were underestimated too. He didn't recognize me. Not at first. I waited in the conference room as he walked in with a practiced smile. "Evan Martinez," he said, extending his hand. I took it. "Connor," I replied, watching his face. His eyes narrowed. "Wait." "Yeah," I said. "Small world, right?" He hesitated. "This is your firm?" I nodded. He didn't sit. "Why'd you call me in?" I leaned back. "Because I wanted to see if you were still coasting. Turns out, you are." He opened his mouth to say something, maybe to defend himself, maybe to beg, but I stood. "This wasn't an interview," I said. "This was a reminder." The word spread faster than I thought it would. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. But someone always talks. One of the interns had seen Evan walk out of our building looking like he'd been hit with a brick, and by Monday, 2 of my former classmates had messaged me asking, "Was that the Evan who just tried to apply to your firm?" I didn't confirm or deny anything, just smiled and sent back a thumbs up emoji. For the first time, I was fine letting the whispers do the work. But I wasn't done yet. See, the next part wasn't about business. It was about family. My dad's side of the family had this tradition, an annual Martinez barbecue every June, always hosted at my Aunt Laura's lake house. She loved showing it off. Glass deck, jet skis, personalized monogram towels like it was some kind of resort. I'd skipped it the last couple of years. Mostly because I didn't want to sit at a folding table listening to Evan talk about disrupting the industry with recycled jargon he probably stole from a LinkedIn post. But this year I had a reason to go. I RSVP'd. Said I'd be bringing a plus one. When I pulled up, the whole backyard was already packed. Plastic cups clinking, little kids running around barefoot, someone playing reggaeton too loud from a Bluetooth speaker near the grill. Laura saw me first. She waved, a little too tightly, like she wasn't sure if I was a ghost or a guest. "Connor," she said, walking over with a practiced smile. "Didn't think we'd see you this year. Thought I'd drop in," I said, handing her a bottle of wine. "Something I picked up on my last trip to Napa." She nodded slowly, then glanced behind me. "And this is my girlfriend, Marissa," I said. "She's in brand law." Marissa smiled politely and extended her hand. Laura shook it, still clearly doing the math. I could see Evan standing near the grill, trying to play it cool. But he wasn't fooling anyone. He looked like he wanted the earth to open up. The real kicker? I hadn't planned to say a word about our interview, but Laura couldn't help herself. "I heard you've been busy," she said. "Running your own thing?" "Trying," I said. "Bloomskin kept us on for another campaign. Just got picked up by Greenher, too. You guys were pitching them, right?" Her smile faltered. "Just for a second. They're still reviewing options." "Ah, well, good luck. We just signed the contract last week." There it was. That twitch in her jaw. Like she bit into something sour and didn't want anyone to notice. We made small talk for a bit. I complimented the food. Marissa complimented the view. It was all very cordial. But every so often, I'd catch Evan watching me, like he was waiting for the moment I'd tell everyone what had happened. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited until later in the evening, when Laura pulled out a microphone. Yes, seriously, and gave a little family toast. She thanked everyone for coming, made a few jokes about turning 50 with grace, and then said, "We're so proud of what everyone in this family is building. Evan's still leading projects at LRM, and Connor here is finally doing his own thing. Love to see the ambition." That was my cue. I clinked my plastic cup. "Actually, Laura, I wanted to thank you." People turned. My uncle lowered the grill tongs. The Bluetooth speaker even paused between tracks. "You once told me I didn't have enough fire," I said. "And you were right. Back then, I didn't. But you gave my spot to someone who didn't want to build anything real. He just wanted a shortcut. And that taught me something." I saw Evan tense. "So thank you," I continued. "Because if you hadn't picked him, I wouldn't have built a company that's now taking your clients." Dead silence. My dad coughed. Someone dropped a fork. Laura tried to recover. "Connor, maybe this isn't the—" "No worries," I said, holding up a hand. "We can all pretend it's water under the bridge. I just thought it was time to stop pretending I got here by accident." I looked at Evan, who couldn't even meet my eyes. "I've got plenty of ambition now," I said. "You just didn't recognize it because it didn't look like yours." With that, I smiled, took Marissa's hand, and walked off the deck. I didn't stay for dessert. The fallout from the barbecue didn't hit right away. Most of the family was too stunned to say anything during the rest of the evening. And by the time I left with Marissa, my phone had already started buzzing. A few cousins texted me things like, "Holy sh*T, that was wild," or "You really said what we've all been thinking." One of them, Danny, who'd been quietly resentful ever since Evan mocked his career in retail, just sent 3 flame emojis. I didn't reply to any of them. But Laura? She didn't text. She didn't call. She went completely silent. And for her, that was louder than anything she could have said. Evan, on the other hand, tried to save face. 3 days after the barbecue, I got a LinkedIn message from him. "Hey man, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I've been thinking a lot about how things went down. Would love to talk if you're open to it." No hard feelings on my end. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, the same part that used to ache when I saw him wearing a suit to client meetings while I was getting his coffee, wanted to rub his failure in his face. But I didn't do either. Instead, I replied with one sentence. "You always said you were better than me. Now's your chance to prove it somewhere else." That was it. He didn't respond again. A few weeks later, word got out that Evan had been let go from LRM. Quietly. No LinkedIn farewell post. No "new adventures soon" announcement. Just silence. I imagine it had something to do with the mess he made on a recent campaign. One of their smaller skincare clients accused the firm of copying Bloomskin's new strategy point for point. The timelines were suspicious. The tone was nearly identical. The only difference was execution. Ours worked. Theirs flopped. I wasn't the one who made the complaint. But Teresa's legal team? That's another story. From that point on, my company picked up speed. We signed 2 more major clients in under 6 months. I hired a COO. We got our own office space in Soho. It wasn't flashy, but it had big windows, brick walls, and enough space for growth. One afternoon, as I was walking past the glass-walled conference room, I saw something that made me stop. My team was running a pitch session, and one of the junior strategists, Sarah, was using a framework I'd created. Not quoting me, not parroting it, but building from it, expanding, making it better. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. That same week, I got invited to be a guest speaker at a university branding class. Ironically, the same university Evan once told everyone I probably couldn't have gotten into without his aunt's help. I accepted, gave a talk called Branding That Doesn't Lie to You. The students were sharp, curious. No one cared about titles or politics. They just wanted to learn. At the end, one girl came up and said, "So, how did you get into this line of work?" And I said, "By being told I wasn't good enough." Repeatedly. She smiled. "Guess that worked out." Eventually, I said, "Yeah." I didn't tell her about Laura, or Evan, or the backyard speech. Not because I was hiding it, but because that wasn't the point anymore. The real win wasn't the client we took or the money we made. It was knowing that when someone tried to box me into being less than, I didn't stay small. I didn't argue or beg or lash out. I just quietly built. And when I was done building, the walls they used to keep me out became the stage I stood on. Months later, at Thanksgiving, I got seated 2 chairs down from Laura at my grandparents' house. She gave me a tight smile. I nodded. We didn't speak. Not about work. Not about Evan. Just the weather. The turkey. The usual. But after dinner, as I was putting on my coat, she came up beside me. "You've done well," she said. "Thanks. You could have told me. That Bloomskin was you." "I could have," I said. "But then I would have been asking for approval. And I stopped needing that a long time ago." She looked away. "Evan's figuring things out," she said, like she still needed to defend him. "I hope so," I said, and I meant it. "There's room for all of us." She didn't reply. I walked out into the cold, flipped up my collar, and took a long breath. Because here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It stops being about the other person long before you think it will. Eventually, it's just about reclaiming space. Your space. The one they told you didn't deserve. And when you stand in it, fully, without apology, there's nothing left to take back. Because you've already taken back yourself. And that's the only win that really matters.